to Taylor Treasures. Hello and welcome back to the show.
Welcome back.
So today we have a guest on the show, and his name is Joe Stargensky.
Very exciting.
And he is a location manager for TV shows and movies. And do you mind just briefly explaining to people watching what a location manager is?
Yes. So I think the basic way to say it is that a location manager, anything that's not built on a stage, on a sound stage, you have to find.
Yeah.
So if they want to find a bridge for someone to jump off a bridge, they need a house, a character's house. They need a road to do a chase. We go out and we scout it. We look for it. We work with the production designer. And I'm gonna say things. I'll try to explain them. Production designer is in charge of the look of the show. So you'll see him usually on the head credits. So I work with him and I work with the director, and he'll say I want this house to be a glass house or a modern house or a mid-century modern or whatever. And we go out, we look for it, and once the director picks it, then we produce the location. So we get all the permits to be there, to be in the town, to be on the street. If we have to close the street, where do we park trucks? Where do we park our crew? We work with every department, which I love about this job. So if there's a stunt, someone gets thrown out of a window, we have to explain to people okay, we got to take your window out. We got to put candy glass in. And you're are you going to go through my window? We also work with people who don't know what we do. We're the only department that deals with the public, and we deal with civic, we deal with mayors and governors and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, for big stuff, for big chases, closing down roads, it's a lot of cooperation. It takes months to do sometimes. So, and that's what we do. So we produce it, and where our crew eat, where would they go to the bathrooms? We have to bring in bathrooms. We have to, someone once explained that we basically move an army. So anything you need.
There's a lot to think about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anything you need, you go to an office, if you're working in an office, anything you need, we have to bring. We bring our offices with us. Yeah. We bring our electricity with us. We bring a kitchen with us. We bring anything to feed the crew. We bring bathroom trailers. And so that's kind of what we do.
Well, that is really interesting. Yeah. So we can actually start with the first question. It's kind of like a two-parter question. But it's, how did you end up getting into, the behind-the-scenes entertainment world? And how did you get the job that you have now?
Wow. How far back do you want to go? By the way, I watch these interview shows, and they all have little mugs that say,
that's awesome.
I know you have a mug somewhere there, or
they're right over there. Yes.
I made my own. I'm not very graphic, so it's too close to the handle, so I have to kind of drink like this. And it is water. So I don't know if you can see both TTs if I drink regularly.
No, that is awesome. That's
perfect. And I am drinking water, and my favorite water. I don't know if you're allowed to show labels, but it's my favorite.
Oh, I know what that is.
Oh, yeah,
it's very good.
It's the square bottle.
Yes,
very
the square
good.
one's the best.
Yes.
Yes. I love it. So let me go back to when I was 5 years old, or maybe 6 years old. Thinking of your question, I think there's three things that got me into the entertainment business, and it was all started when I was very young. So one, do you live in?
We do.
We do. Yep.
Yeah. So when I was young, cinema used to be a single cinema, and I don't know what was, but I think it's where the rich and famous went, because it was a single screen, curved. It was huge. It had chandeliers and mosaics on the roof.
Wow.
And I would go see movies. My dad would take me to movies every Saturday. I wanted to see movies, and he would take me, they had live stage shows on the stage, and then they would show a Godzilla movie. I was really into the monster movies when I was young. And another thing was my relatives lived in Imperial, I guess, or out near the airport, near Pittsburgh Airport. So there was something called the Twin Highway Drive-In, which does not exist anymore. I think they tore it down not too long ago, 10 years ago or so. But we would be driving to my relatives, and I would see these images suspended in the air. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And my dad was like, that's a drive-in. And I went, well, I want to go. So I was really into that. And then there was a Saturday night horror thriller show on, I think, ABC, NBC, something. It's Channel 11. It was called Chiller Theater. And it was so popular. It was hosted by Bill Cardell. It's when they had these horror monster hosts, and they would show sci-fi movies and horror movies. So my dad would let me stay up on Saturday night till 1 a.m. to watch these
that's exciting.
scary movies, which I loved. And that was good. And they were all the old horror movies. They were like the 1931s, The Wolfman and Frankenstein. And the show was so popular, if you want to look it up, that Saturday Night Live, when Saturday Night Live started in the 70s, they would put this show on and then put Saturday Night Live on after it.
Oh,
And the whole country was seeing it as 11:30. That's how popular this show was. So those three things, because there was a movie house in my hometown, I just loved movies. And I kept going, and my dad let me stay up and watch movies on TV. And then I saw this movie called Jaws. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah.
I hope you've heard of it. Yeah. I'm going to say very obscure movies, so don't worry about it, because it's a different generation. But it was the first time that I ever saw a book or read a book on the making of a movie. Okay. And up at that point, I loved Dracula movies. I loved the Hammer movies from the 50s and 60s. And I wanted to be an actor at first. And I wanted to be like a vampire actor. That's all I wanted to do.
Just vampires.
You want to be Forrest Gump? Well, is he a vampire? No, I don't want to be Forrest Gump. So, and then I read this book, Jaws, and it was about the making. It's called The Jaws Log, and it's actually, I reread it over the pandemic. It's a great book about the making of a movie, if you ever want to know. And it still holds true. Everything they do, we still do today. So I read that book, and I read about this guy that ran around checking lights and cameras and talking to the editor, and the actors were just sitting around playing cards, waiting for the sun to come out to do a shot. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds boring. I want to be the guy who runs around and does
everything.
Exactly, yeah.
So from then on, I would make movies, and in high school, I made movies with your uncle John.
Oh, yeah.
And I would make movies, and I went to film school, and I had a family in San Diego, and I would work locally in San Diego. So I directed like infomercials and things like that, and training videos, commercials, but they were local stuff. And then there was a studio there that did USA Network shows, and they did a show, you might know this show, it's still a cult thing. It's called Veronica Mars. It's with Kristen Bell.
Okay.
So she did a series. She was a high school private eye, not like who's the female Hardy Boys? It's like that.
Nancy Drew.
So it was kind of a cult classic back then. They did a movie a few years ago, actually, of it. And that was, I got into that, and I got into locations on that show. I was working on another show, and some producers recommended me because she was losing her assistant. And I just loved locations. I mean, you go out, you're not in an office, you go out, you scout, you work with directors. When you go out on a scout, it's like, before anybody's around, you're the producer, you're the director, you're the cameraman. You can make them pick a location, and you can tell them, hey, you can do it here, or you can do your shot here. This would fit, and you can just be everything until everyone comes and has an opinion. So there's that creative side, and then there's the business side of filmmaking, and which is also kind of fun because you try to save money. It's like, hey, we can use this front door as this location, but the back door has a different piece of architecture, and we can make it look like another location. So,
that's interesting.
It's kind of I love the fakeness of making. So it suits me. So this job that I'm on, I am actually the COVID location manager. And what happened is right before this show, I was working with the producers on this show in Japan. They were doing a G.I. Joe origin story called Snake Eyes. It's with Henry Gold, who was in Crazy Rich Asians. They shot it in Vancouver, and they shot it in Japan. Cool. And I had worked in Vietnam on a movie called Kong Skull Island. So someone recommended me to these producers. They were like, they called up a producer friend of mine, and they said, hey, do you know anybody? We need someone to go right away to Japan. And this is the biggest movie in Japan, and we're losing locations because they're not asking the right questions, so we need to send someone over, and someone recommended me. And so I got the job, and I went over, and they called me during the pandemic. They were working on this movie now, which is called Don't Look Up. It's for Netflix. And they called me, and They wanted me to be the location manager when we were in Japan, but that didn't happen because I was working in Japan and they had to hurry up. So they called me to be the COVID location manager. And I like these producers so much. I just said, whatever you want me to do, I'll do.
Okay.
So a COVID location manager does the same thing. I mean, I don't scout for it, but we have to bring everything to protect our crew to set. So you might bring bathroom trailers, but you got to divide them. Your cast can not mingle with people without masks. So there's all these different things you have to do. So
Yeah.
That's what
That makes sense.
Cool. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I like to see like how it started from when you were so young and then up to now you're still interested in it. It's so interesting.
Yeah, my mom thanks me because she says you're the only person who continued their schooling. So I went to school. I went to film school.
Yeah,
my other brother went for
Yeah,
music,
yeah.
and
Right. Cool.
I'm still in the business I wanted to be in when I was like 6 years old. So.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
that you
really
can do
neat.
that.
Yeah.
Well, what are what are some of the most like recognizable TV shows and movies that you have been the locations manager or worked on before?
Oh, well, I brought up Veronica Mars.
Yeah.
And then there's I did a lot of TV, and some were recognized by critics and stuff, but they didn't last very long.
Okay.
So one day I was like, I was supposed to be on a movie called Ant-Man, and it didn't happen. And so I was sitting there, and I looked up, and I was like, what am I? It was like 4 months without work, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And I got a call to be on Anchorman 2. So
Wow.
yeah, so that started my trend. For the past 7 or 8 years, I have been home in my own bed for about 8 months.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Anchorman was done in San Diego, where I live. I'm in Boston now. I'm working on this movie in Boston. And after Anchorman, so I got Anchorman from a phone call, and I got an email the same night about working in Hawaii. And there was a movie coming up in September, and they said, do I want to come out and work on it? And I said, sure. And Anchorman was like from, May till August, and they needed me, I think, August or something like that. August or September. So I said, yeah, it'll work out great. So I said, yeah, whatever, I'll just go. I took any work I could get. And I finally called and I said, by the way, what movie is filming in Hawaii? And the guy, who's an older guy, he said, it's Hunger something. Hunger. And I went, Hunger Games? Yeah. I went,
Wow.
That is so cool.
I'll know. So I worked on Catching Fire, which was the second Hunger Games.
Yeah.
They shot part of it in Georgia, and then the whole games is Hawaii.
I didn't know that.
So,
That's very cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So she comes out of the water, I guess, I don't know if you remember it, but she comes out on this pedestal or something.
Yeah.
She comes out of the water, and her coming out of the water was done in Georgia at a water park. And she turns around and sees jungle and starts running to the jungle, and that starts Hawaii.
And that's
So
Hawaii.
her
Okay.
coming out was Georgia. And then we built one of those spokes. I don't know if you remember, it had the big spokes, and
Yeah.
she runs on them. So we built one of those leading to the beach, and so everything else was done in Hawaii. And then I did Godzilla in Hawaii, and I did Kong Skull Island in Hawaii, and then I went to Vietnam on Kong Skull Island. I did Mindhunter, which is on Netflix. It's a serial killer show.
Oh, I was an extra in that
she was.
series.
What?
Yeah.
What
When,
scene then? I did
whenever-
both seasons.
Okay. It was near a movie theater. I think it was in Zelienople or somewhere.
In Zelienople. I
Yeah.
was there that day.
No way! Really? Yeah, I was.
Because on that street, it was a night scene.
Yes, they
and
had the
parked.
big water trucks that went by to make it look like it rained.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just one of the extras that just walking to the movie theater. That's what I did the whole night.
Oh, what a small world.
I know. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. So I did
so
2
crazy.
seasons of that. I did a show on Hulu I did 2 seasons of a show on Hulu called Castle Rock, which is based on Stephen King's world.
Yeah.
And then I went back to Hawaii, and I did 1 season of Magnum PI, their first season.
Okay.
So I was a location manager for that. And then I went from Castle Rock, second season, I went to Japan to do Snake Eyes, which it's a Paramount movie and it's not out yet. It was supposed to be out last October. I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Okay.
And then after Snake Eyes, I came back, and a week later, the pandemic started. And then in August, I was called to come to Boston to do Don't Look Up. And Don't Look Up is Adam McKay. He did Vice and The Big Short. He does a lot of Will Ferrell movies.
Okay.
But it's a big cast. It's like Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett, Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, wow.
My goodness.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Ariana Grande.
It's a lot of names.
That is a lot of big names.
Yeah. So I've been here since August, and
We'll have to
we're
look for
done.
that one.
We're done this week. This is our last week.
Oh,
wow.
okay.
So we're
Awesome. Okay, so for our next question is, what's one of like your favorite locations you've been to?
Ooh. Well, I thought of that. I mean, it's great when going to Vietnam to film and going to Japan. You see incredible things. I mean, you either see the worst of a town or the best. You don't see mediocre. It's always so. We're like in Vietnam. You know, we were in Hanoi, but we were in Ha Long Bay, and we were in all these rivers that were only the government owned because it's a communist country. So only the government owned them. So we were in these secluded places that no one has ever seen, basically, or the public actually in Vietnam.
wow.
And so that's always cool. But for me, the really cool stuff is like for Veronica Mars. There's a bridge in San Diego called Coronado Bridge, and we closed it down for a day. We had someone there was an episode where someone jumped off the bridge, so their car was on the middle of the bridge with the doors open. Cops were there. So the city said, you can do this shot. You have 2 hours from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's a major bridge on a Sunday. So we said, okay, we'll do that. So, we were like throwing footballs on the bridge and like stuff that no one else gets to do. I mean,
That is pretty awesome.
walks on
Yeah.
a
Shut down.
So I shot on an aircraft carrier. So you go into, areas that are, I don't know if they're top clearance, but we got in rooms that no one was really allowed to go in. So it's weird stuff like that I like.
All the inside
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
So, and yeah, when we film, like I said, we film at World Heritage sites, which are like castles that have been around for thousands of years and stuff like that. So you just see really cool stuff. So yeah, I guess I don't know about a favorite. I mean, I loved Vietnam, but going away to new places, it does that to you. But in Pittsburgh, we shot at a closed down prison, in Greensburg. And that was kind of cool. I mean, we were allowed to play with the jail cells and close
That
the
is very
gates.
cool.
And,
Yeah.
It's like better than a tour.
So,
You get
I
to
mean,
do what you want.
we're just in places that no one usually gets to see. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
kinda
that is really interesting.
So you have to go and find locations, but do you often go on the set? And if you do, what's it like to be on the set, like when they're filming? Or is it more they do that after you've got the location?
So my department is in charge of the location from prep, which is preparing the location, filming, and wrap, which is
Okay.
we pride ourselves. Every contract is we have to put every location back the way we found it.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
it's in the contract. So we can kick people out of a house for months, and we change it, we add to it, we paint it differently, and we have to put it back the way it was. Now, most people like what we do, and they go, "Can you keep that?" But we sometimes don't build to code because it's fake. But sometimes we do build to code because we have to have a film crew on it, and there's safety involved and structural engineering and stuff that you might not think about. Anywhere we go, if they want to put a light on a roof or something like that, you need a structural engineer to make sure that it can hold the weight. So we have to figure all that stuff out. So everything's pre-planned. So yes, we're on set during shooting. So usually as a manager, I'm not, but when I was coming up the ranks, I was on set all the time. I started on set. So there's an on-set guy, and they hang out, they bring in the trucks, the base camp, which is like our makeup trailers and all that stuff. And then we're on set. So if they're at a location and they go, "Hey, we need this door open so we can put a camera in there," are we allowed to take out that window? Are we allowed to take out this door? Sometimes we take down a wall, because as long as it's not load-bearing wall, you can take it down and put it back up when you're done.
Yeah.
You can rebuild it. So we have a construction crew, we have painters, we have carpenters, and they all do this stuff. We have people who just take care of picture cars. So any vehicle you see in a movie, and Mindhunter's a good one because it's a period piece from the 70s.
Yeah.
It has great cars in it. There's someone in charge of getting those, acquiring those, paying for them, renting them, and car crashes, things like that. When you see a car crash, it's usually older cars because they buy them off of Craigslist or something. They line them up and then crash them.
That's interesting. Like, yeah, maybe you don't think about it when you watch a movie all the time, but there must be so many different things that go into it and so many different jobs, to get it all together.
Yeah, it's you probably don't want to know. I mean, like I said, we deal with a lot of people who don't know what we do, because we'll go to a homeowner and say, hey, we want to film in your house, and when they agree, they don't know what we do. So we have 200 people swarming into their house. So they need like a door open, or they say, hey, we need to go on the roof. Can we go on the roof? Or we need this window open, whatever it is, or we want to take this table away, and then they ask locations. They ask if it's okay to do whatever they need to do. And after a while, I anticipate that now. I know exactly what every department is going to ask from a location.
Okay.
So there are some location managers that will wait for them to ask, but I won't. I just do it. Like if we're shooting a porch scene, something you don't realize, another big thing about locations is front doors. Directors, I mean, when you see a front door, it's well thought out. They want a great front door, and they need to know. First, you got to see it from the street, and then they need to know when you're inside the door looking out, what's across the street. They want it to be interesting. They don't want it to be boring. So front doors are very big. They will say like, hey, we need to clear these people across the way. They're on their lawn, so they get locations to do it. Someone is mowing their grass down the street, and they say, it's ruining our sound. Can you go tell them to turn off the lawnmower? And there's actually people in LA who make a living by getting the roster for where filming is done. So they'll go with their lawnmower and get paid $50 to $100 to turn off their lawnmower. So someone picked up on that.
Wow.
So I mean, you're on the set. What I like to do is every time they do a new setup, so they'll have a camera. If there's a conversation between two people, you film one person, then you film the other. Depends how many cameras you have.
Yeah.
So if you film one person, and then you got to change the scenery, and then you film the next person. So when they turn around, I always come back so they have questions and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Okay.
But yes, I am on set, and I like to go, even as a manager, I like to go and watch the scene on the video monitor. We call it Video Village. It's where the director watches the shot and all that stuff. So I like going and watching it, and you get to see what you picked and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Once it's lit and beautiful and atmosphere and smoke and whatever they put in, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up about like the camera angles, because when I watch, a TV show, sometimes it'll seem like, they filmed it at separate times, and then other times it seems like it's all the same shot going back and forth. So they do go back and forth, no matter how.
Yeah, it depends on I guess emotional, like big emotional scenes. A director will decide I want 4 cameras. I want a wide shot, and I want a close-up on the actor, because it's so emotional that they want to get, if they get it, they want to get it. When they get, the actor gets there. So it depends. It could be 1 camera, or, on independent movies, they don't have enough to hire 2 camera people and an operator and all that stuff, and whoever goes with the camera. There's a lot of people that goes with the camera, and the assistant cameraman, all that stuff. So they might not be able to afford it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, on Kong Skull Island, we dropped a real helicopter from a tree.
Oh my!
If you see the movie, there's a whole bunch. I was in charge of all the helicopter crashes on that movie. So they put 10 cameras on an old U.S. Army helicopter, and they dropped it through a tree. So every crash is from a take from one of those 10 cameras.
Huh.
So
Very
they just
cool.
dropped it through a tree, and we had to get permission for the tree. Like the tree couldn't have been endangered, and we kind of had to cut it so it would find its own path. And we had a tree specialist come and make sure that we weren't going to kill the tree by doing this thing. Doing this.
How about that?
Yeah, that's very neat.
You gotta think about
so
the
there's a lot of
trees.
Yeah.
things. Yep.
So the next question we have is, do you have a favorite project that you've worked on?
Again, they're all hard, and I think I like every one. I mean, there's always a story from every show, and I think I think this might go with that question, is the best day I ever had on a show. It was one day, and it was on Anchorman 2. So they shot most of that, even though it takes place in San Diego. I think they shot it in Georgia, and they went to New York. And San Diego, it was their last week of filming, and they were filming for months. And supposedly New York did not go well due to weather, stuff like that. So what we had to do, it was I guess it's not politically correct to say this now, but it was the dolphin show at SeaWorld in San Diego. And they were coming to film Will Ferrell's character in front of the dolphin show, and I think he was drunk, but they needed to fill the arena with 5,000 people dressed in 80s clothes. Okay. And it took us 2 months to set that up. So what we did is everybody who had a season pass to SeaWorld, they got first dibs in being in the movie.
Oh, cool. Neat.
So what we had to do is they had to park. The rest of the park was open. The park wasn't closed, but the dolphin show was closed for the day. And we had to get them through what we call processing. So all the actors come, they bring a few costume changes. So if the costume designer or the costumer does not like their clothes, they can say, oh no, wear this. There might be instructions from the director. We don't want reds, we don't want blues. You never know what they're talking about. So they had to bring changes. So we had to bring them in, 5,000 people coming off the highway. So we staggered it, and it was a big thing. When they were coming, they said, hey, we want to do he has a Jesus mobile home in it, and he's driving it around. So they wanted driving shots around San Diego, so I had to scout for that. So I became the location manager on it after scouting. So they wanted to do some road stuff. So but when they came, like I said, it took 2 months, and everybody said they're going to be really cranky. Yeah. And they came, and it was the best day ever. It was like 5,000 people. When you get 5,000 people in an arena sitting there for 15 hours,
wow.
that's hard to do, because that's a filming day. The whole day was this dolphin show. And I think the story was that they kept writing into the script things that dolphins didn't do in their natural habitat. So SeaWorld would not let them do it in the movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, they came in like June or something, and like January, they were negotiating about this scene, about rewriting it and making sure SeaWorld was happy with it. So, they came, and I don't know if you know the Judd Apatow. He does all these big movies with Seth Rogen and things like that. He's a big producer. He came, and he did stand-up, and they all came with like their families, their wives, their kids, and they came with their grandparents, and they were such a good mood. And Will Ferrell would like rehearse with his son in the makeup trailer. Like I knew one of the makeup women, and they were like, yeah, he would just do that, and he would go to the arena and just go off the corner and do his thing, and the director would be up in a booth, and he would just say, hey Will, can you tell everybody about your last girlfriend? And Will would just go into his character and just start talking and cracking everybody up. and then he would say, hey Will, tell us about your black soul. I was like, what direction is that? And then he went into this thing as, his Anchorman character, and everyone was cracking up, and they said, okay, let's do the scene. And they did the scene, and everyone was laughing at him, and the director was like, okay, crowd, you can't laugh. You're supposed to be disgusted by what he's doing. but it was so great, and they brought us down. They introduced everybody from San Diego to everybody in the arena. It was a beautiful day, and everything worked. All 5,000 people came. And the only thing is we were on the news because we created a traffic jam on the major highway. But other than that, but we staggered them. They didn't all come at once. So it was such a perfect day, and it worked perfectly, which you usually don't get. And then I was in the park, so I was like, my job is done. I'm gonna go to the park. And I hung out in the park, and I went, it's like 6 o'clock at night. I wonder if like a lot of people left, because they came at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
They came at like 4 or 3 in the morning. And I went in, and all 5,000 people were still there.
How cool.
Oh, that's
And
really cool.
I mean, people usually, when they watch filming, they get bored because it's take after take after take, and it's the same thing, and they have to adjust the light, and it takes forever. But everyone said, and it was just the best day. I'm not saying, you know, the others weren't, but it was the best day I've ever had on the set, and watching them work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun for sure. Yeah.
Our next question is, what's the most unusual like request for a location you've ever had?
Okay, I'm gonna get a little crude here. So it was actually for a print ad. So when you location scout for films and TV, I can go out of the box a little bit.
Okay.
So if someone says, hey, I want steel and glass house, and I find a wooden house that I think is really cool, as long as I give the director and the production designer samples that they like, that they wanted, I can say, but you know what, I found this house that I think is really cool. So, and they, it changes their mind. They can go, oh, you know what, that's interesting. Let's see that too. They'll go, let's go see that. So print ads and commercials are extremely different. They want exactly what the storyboard is. So if they want a car going down a mountain and they have another mountain behind it and they want a radio tower in the middle of it, you find that. They're not going to draw it in. They're not going to CGI it. They want you to find that.
Yeah.
They want they want exactly what they have, because there's ad agencies and all that stuff. They just want what they drew on their board. So I did a print ad for a laxative. Do you know what a laxative is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the ad was, it was going to be in doctor's offices and magazines across the country.
Okay.
So the ad was basically, where would you be when your laxative kicks in? So they gave me a toilet seat. And they said, we need you, here's the storyboards. So there was like, at a trolley stop, it was like, there's a toilet seat at the trolley stop in their ad. So they just cut to all these. So the person is sitting in the ad, the person will be sitting next to the toilet seat, like, with his face. That's and they said, we want you to go to all of our places and take a picture of this toilet seat. So I had to go to a college campus.
Oh my
I had to go to a stadium game. And I just, I got the Target, I had the Target toilet seat. It was just a toilet seat, and I had to open it and take a picture of it, hold it, and I just walked away. And I'm sure people were like, what the heck? So that was, I think, my most memorable. That was the weirdest request I had to do, but that's stuff you got to do.
Yeah, that's really funny. All right, so I think you kind of answered this with the Will Ferrell thing, but we also had a question that was, which one of your favorite memories while working on your job? Which I would think would be the one that you were talking about with the dolphins, but... Yeah,
I mean, that was very memorable, but as an experience, I think Vietnam. Mm-hmm. I mean, if anybody ever told me I would be in Vietnam, when I grew up, they were like, you're crazy or whatever. It was the best people. It was just beautiful. We shot in beautiful places. The people were beautiful. I thought I was Brad Pitt. I would take a bike ride into this small village, and this little boy would run out and just yell something in Vietnamese, and the whole town came out.
Oh my God.
And just surrounded me, and they all had cell phones, and they all had, I wish I was at my house because I could show you stuff, but I don't have anything here. They would just come out and they would invite you to their home. There were such proud people, and there was some epiphanies that I had about viewing people in the world when I was there, which I won't go into that right now, but it was just like it was a communist country. I mean, you could go there and go, God, this town is a dump. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But these people were so, it's wherever you live. It's like these people were so proud of where they lived. And after a while, I was there and I was like, you know what? This town is pretty great. It kind of has everything you need. And the people were great. And, you know, there's mountains behind it. And I'm like, I scolded myself. I'm like, shame on me. And it was just a perspective of seeing, you know, other people and how they live. And they were happy. They were so happy.
Yeah.
And they were proud. They were so proud. I would be when we work, we have trucks that have lift gates, so you put the equipment on, then it lifts up and you go into the truck. They don't have lift gates in Vietnam. And what was interesting about Vietnam is that in Hawaii, we shot it in Hawaii, Australia, and Vietnam. This was the Kong movie. So in Hawaii, where we were allowed to blow up the jungle, but we were not allowed to blow up the beaches of Hawaii. In Australia, we were allowed to blow up the beaches, but we couldn't blow up the jungles. And in Vietnam, we weren't allowed to blow up anything, but we were allowed to have a machine gun, which was, we did all of our boat scenes there on the rivers of Vietnam. So there was a machine gun on the boat and we were allowed to use that. But they were so accommodating. And like I said, they would invite you into into their houses. They didn't know you. And we didn't have lift gates. So I would say, okay, I need a light tower. It's like, you know, those cranking ones that go up, you see them in parking lots. And I go, I need to get that on the truck. So why don't we all get together and lift it? And they would like push me away. They would take off their shirts. They would take off their belts. They would do this holy system and pull it onto the truck. It was amazing.
Oh wow!
And I was we were shooting in a river, and I found this patch of land, and we had to eat lunch on this patch of land. We were filming in a cave, and the caves were only there was a 4-foot clearance above your head, so we either had to put our equipment on its side, or we couldn't bring the equipment in. So I was like, okay, we can't bring tents to have our lunch. We had a place to eat lunch in the middle of this river. So I said, okay, what I want to do is I'm going to clear this patch of, you know, this streak of land, and we're just going to put canopy tents. We're going to put the top of tents, a canopy. We're going to canopy the whole thing. We're not going to have sides, just in case it rains. We're going to have a canopy. And I go, we're going to need some kind of ladder. They took off their shoes, they took the canopy, and they shimmied up the tree with their feet.
Wow.
And their hands. I mean, it was amazing. It was like they were so resourceful.
Yeah.
And so that was probably experiences I will never forget.
I imagine. That's really cool.
That is really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next question. You already named some, but what are some notable celebrities that you worked with?
Well, you know, I'm more of a director guy, so I don't care about actors. So I would go to director. I would go to directors, and you know, there was a director I worked with that I loved a movie when I was a teenager, and you know, I had the DVD or whatever, and I went and I asked for his autograph, and he was like, "You really need to get a life show." But I mean, I worked with Jennifer Lawrence. I worked with all the Hunger Games people. I worked with Vin Diesel. On this show, I'm working with Leonardo DiCaprio and Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill and all those guys, Kate Blanchett, Jennifer Lawrence again. Who else did I see? Kristen Bell, she's on TV now. Oh, I did Michael Caine. Do you know Michael Caine?
Oh yeah.
He's an older actor. Usually when he worked on the Last Picture Show, Elijah Wood, he was on Last Witch Hunter. It was done in Pittsburgh, and it was supposed to be New York, but they did it all in Pittsburgh. And Michael Caine was there. And when you're on a set, you're not supposed to bother people. You know, you're not supposed to bother the actors. They're just there to do their job. Everyone's there to do their job.
Yeah.
And some actors are really cool. They have softball games with you, or they invite you to the poker game, or they talk to you. I mean, on one show, one of the main actors, if he would hear people talking and laughing, he would come over and join the conversation. And so one day I was there, and they like just came over and started talking to us, and I'm like, oh, okay. But Michael Caine, people were like, I don't care what the production says, I'm gonna ask for his autograph because he's an iconic,
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
figure.
Yeah.
So I walked into a bathroom and he was in there with me, and that's my story. It was like I peed next to Michael Caine. I was like, this is outstanding. That's a better story. And who else? Mindhunter Jonathan Graff. I know he's big now. We work with him, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
I mean,
interesting that to you the directors are more of a an interest.
That's just
Well,
what you do.
Yeah.
So.
Like I said, the first book I read, The Jaws Log, it was,
Yeah.
that director, unfortunately, fortunately, was Steven Spielberg. It's kind of a cliche, but he was a nobody back then. And it was like, well, who's that guy? So I followed, I grew up with Steven Spielberg, so everyone wanted to be Steven Spielberg. But I was like, yeah, I love that. I love every aspect of filmmaking.
The process.
Yeah.
Yeah, the process is great. Even from film school, we had to do we had a lighting class, and they gave us 2 walls that were, a corner, and they gave us a cot, and they said, okay, we need to make this a jail cell. It's a sunrise in a jail cell. Some guy is waking up on the cot in a jail cell. So all they gave us was 2 walls and a cot. So you get an 18K light. 18K, the spectrum of that equals sunlight. So you get an 18K light, and we put like strips in front of the light, but it looked fuzzy. So the further you get from the light, it looked like bars on the
that's
on the
neat.
bed.
Yeah.
And then the light was on a crank, on what we call a C-stand. But it was a cranking one. And so we just had it low, and it rose up, and you just saw the bars coming up, you know what I
There you
mean?
go.
Coming up,
Neat.
and it was like all fake. And I went, I love this. I love that we can fool everybody.
Yeah, it looks like a sunrise.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Very neat. All right. So what are some projects that you are currently on? Now, you said it's the Don't Look Up is what you're on right now?
Yes, this is
Okay.
Don't Look Up. It'll be on Netflix by end of this year sometime.
Check it out
Okay.
when it comes out.
And my next job, it seems like, I was just offered a job. It's Martin Scorsese's new movie in Oklahoma. It's called The Killers of the Flower Moon. Do you know Martin Scorsese? He did The Irishman on Netflix and Raging Bull.
I'm not familiar with
Bull,
that, no.
Goodfellas. And so it's like one of the most anticipated movies of the year. So he's doing this. And it also stars Leonardo DiCaprio. It stars Robert De Niro. And it's about the Osage Indian Reservation and murders that happened on it in 1921.
Okay.
And it'll have 900 background extras.
Wow.
And I think they're shooting April through September. So I'm supposed to leave February 26th to go do that. So when I'm on a show, it's usually 10 months,
Okay.
10 months or so.
Wow.
So from beginning to end, if you're on the show from the very beginning to the end, a big movie could be 16 months, and a television show is about 10.
Okay.
It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
So our last question is, what's some advice that you would give to someone just starting out in entertainment, or whether that's on screen or behind screen? Do you have any advice?
The only advice I could give, I guess, what I always say is don't want to be famous. Know your craft. Again, what I love about my job is you work with every department, so I know how every department works.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you're in the camera department, you have your little language that you use, your shorthand. Everyone knows what you're talking about. They don't have to deal with anybody else. They're dealing with lenses and camera and lens sizes, whatever. I have to deal with camera and all that stuff. And that's a good way to go to producing. Like if you want to produce, which I don't care about really, but that's kind of the ladder. Is like, what everyone needs and, how much it costs to do something. And
Right.
so, but I just say you can go into a location department and, be a location PA because they deal with everything. So if you don't know what you want, or if someone goes, I want to be in the camera department, you can ask to be in the camera, they need PAs. But if someone doesn't know, it's like going to locations. We all do it. We all become a PA in the office or a production PA, and it's to get the coffee and all that. We all have to do it. We all have to go through it.
Yeah.
But everyone loves talking about their job. So you just go but if you learn everything, it takes years, and there is no overnight success. A lot of people have been there for years and doing it. So I just say learn all you can. I mean, if you love the business, learn every aspect of it. Learn about how a cameraman thinks. I mean, podcasts I love podcasts. There's just how a production designer. I mean, I never heard of a production designer until I took my job. I mean, I saw their credit. I didn't know what they did, but now, I know the language they speak. I know what they're looking for. I know how they think. And it's like, it's great. You just learn everything, and you can speak to every department on their level. But just learn everything about it, because like COVID location manager, I don't, who knew I would be that, but I'm going to do it again on the next show, but I'll go back to location management. But it's like, this is history. 10 years from now, people are going to be reading credits going, what's a COVID location manager?
Right.
I'll be on another interview show. Now, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get into this? How did you want to do this, and who was your inspiration? Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Well, for me, I was actually the one who started the channel. I do, I plan everything, I edit everything, and she's just here to be on the show. Yeah.
I show up.
You show up.
I do. Yeah. I do.
When do you need me?
Yeah.
When do you need me?
I write the news. That's
she does
my
do
part.
that.
But other than that, I'm just like, what are we doing? And I just come.
What are you doing?
It's really her thing.
Yeah. So I started the channel when I was 13, and it was actually kind of an inspiration from, I don't know if you've heard of them. It's a YouTube channel called Good Mythical Morning or Rhett and Link. They're pretty big. They have like millions of subscribers, and I just really loved what they did, and I thought this would be like a fun thing that we could do together as sisters once a week. And so I was like, do you want to try this out? Doesn't have to go any further than a week, but we can just see how it goes. And we tried it, and if you look at like how they do their videos and how our channel kind of does our videos, it is kind of modeled after their channel, with like the mugs and the segments with the Taylor Treasure Box, and now we added the news. It's definitely more original to what we do now than mirrored to them. Yeah, I've always been interested in filming and all that sorts of stuff. Like, if we have like all sorts of home videos, like we were constantly filming as little kids, and it kind of just grew into who I am now. It's just kind of what I do, and it's so much fun, not just the filming part, but the getting ready with a story if we're doing a script for something, or getting facts for something together. That's really interesting. And especially just the editing process. Like, I'm pretty much self-taught. Like, I've gone from, if you look at my old videos, they're way different than they are now. I keep kind of evolving with what I do with my editing.
Yes. Yeah, and our brother actually used to, he and I made a lot of home videos as well. That's kind of, got into it because he was into, he actually went to the Pittsburgh filmmakers. He went there for a little while. So it was kind of like in the family.
Yeah, so we'd just been doing it, and I'm like, well, why not, try an actual YouTube channel? And
then it just kept going.
Yeah, we just kept doing it, and here we are.
That was the same way with me. My dad, I'd have to go to the baseball games of my brothers, and my dad would have a Super 8 camera, and he knew I loved movies, and he goes, why don't you take movies of your brother playing baseball? So I would like run on the field, and I would like
do all the cool
these shots.
Yeah.
It was like the same way. And editing, that's very interesting. I never have regrets, but I went to film school, and anything I would have learned is obsolete anyway, but I love editing. I think editing they're the directors. They can make any shot better. They can make any performance better. They can ruin a performance too. But editing, I was like, when I did commercials and stuff, I was like, I want my editor there. Like, what am I missing? What I could do a whole show on editing. I love editing.
Yeah, it's interesting with just going from the raw footage, how much you can change it with adding like music or cutting out, parts where, someone's thinking and not saying anything. You cut that out, and putting in pictures and all sorts of stuff. It can really definitely transform it from how it was just filming it. Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I have to wear a face shield for my job when we're on set. So these side shields
I was wondering what those were.
So I don't have an eye ailment, and you're not talking to an insect. I just have to wear these It's flimsy, so it's hard like to put them back on. So I just
Right, might as well
Yeah.
just leave them on.
So it's not it's not a weird.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is all our questions. Just thank you so much for coming on today. This was
Really
Yeah.
interesting to
Oh,
learn
thanks,
all
it was
this.
fun.
Yeah,
Hope
yeah.
it was interesting.
Oh, it was.
100%,
Yeah. We learned
yeah.
so much today about the process.
And we were in the same place and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. No, that is funny. My God, I was there. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's too funny.
But thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I hope it turns out well.
Yeah, well,
Sure.
thank you so much. We really
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
Sure.
has been a lot of fun.
Anytime.
All right. See ya.
Enjoy. Bye.
Well, thank you so much to Joe for coming on the show.
was awesome.
That was so much fun. We learned so much. It was really interesting.
So
Yeah.
informational, yes.
Yeah, well, again, thank you so much, Joe, for coming on. We really appreciate it. And now it is time for the news.
Well, folks, this is it. This is the end. Godzilla has arrived. I hope you're all taking some sort of shelter, even though there's really no shelter to be had from a giant, horrible monster. It's been great reporting for you, but this is the end. It is coming. Godzilla's coming. No one can save us. Help, though. Someone help. Oh, he's coming. I hear him. Please help. Someone help.
And now it is time for the Taylor Treasure Box. Alright.
Would I rather everything be too small or too large? That's an interesting question. Everything.
And I have a story words. And
Story words.
Story words.
Time for our segment of story words, folks.
And I went to the grocery store.
And it was really great. You have to read your story like that.
Get
in your
my story words. So we
voice.
got blob and we got monster. So I gotta do monster and blob.
Okay, story words time. Go ahead and tell your story, honey.
Oh, I'm crying over here.
I'm not that funny.
Anytime I hear that accent, it makes me
I'm
laugh.
not that funny.
So my story word.
You sound Irish with your story words.
My story word. Okay, so we've got blob and monster. So we were.
Now we're Scottish. Okay.
Gotta think about this.
Okay,
For a
fine.
story.
I'll decide. I'd rather have everything too big, I think. Because too small aggravates me. Like if I have a pair of shoes that's too small, or if I had to drive a car that was too small, not gonna work. I would say too big.
No, okay. Okay, so my story word is blob and monster. So there was this blob, you know, the blob was from the Blob, the movie The Blob, and it was going to,
Interesting story.
and it
Blobs.
It was going to fight in a boxing match with a monster. And the monster was incredibly tough looking. You know, it looked like it was just the monster was gonna win.
Okay.
The monster.
Monster.
Yep. So the monster and the blob come up to each other, and the monster actually lost to the blob, and everyone was
boy.
really surprised
That's
because the blob was so blobby that when it got punched in anywhere, blab, yeah, it had so much blabber that it never got hurt. It was like protection for the inside. So when he hit the monster was a knockout. And the blab won after two rounds. Okay. Only 2 rounds of blab won.
Okay, that was a good story. I'd like you to know that your accent went from Irish to Scottish to Wisconsin at the very end there.
I was trying to do Wisconsin the whole time. That's what I was going for.
It started out as Irish, and then Scottish, and then it got nice and Wisconsin-y. Well, thanks y'all for watching the show.
Yeah, thanks for watching the show, guys. So
for sure, it's great.
For sure. So don't you know? So if you'd like to like the video, you can do that, and you can also comment on the video.
Please comment.
Comment on the video.
You can comment
and make sure to subscribe
and cheer.
I went to Southern.
Okay. Now we're moving to Southernville. Thanks y'all for coming.
Thanks
Can you
for coming,
subscribe?
y'all.
Thanks,
well, subscribe, and we'll press the bell right next to it. And do that.
Now we're from Texas. This is taking a turn.
It's going all over the place, and you can also follow us on Instagram and the Facebook, which is @TaylorTreasuresOfficial.
That'd be great if you could do that for us.
And we will see you next time.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Watching.
Thank you for
watching the episode. If you'd like to
so
subscribe,
appreciated,
right
you know.
here, you can subscribe right at this button.
Please,
we truly appreciate it.
Please subscribe.
Yes.
And if you wouldn't mind, there's another video over here.
Oh, it would be jolly good if you could watch that video
it would be
right
quite
there.
excellent.
It'd be
Please
so
do.
wonderful. Yes, yes. And you can also check out our channel. And we will see you in the future. Bye.